This is Twilight Sparkle Discovers Wikipedia by Fatima G. 1. Twilight shuffled through the books one at a time in the bookshelf. Why can't I find a book here on squirrels in equestrian antiquity? The unicorn rolled her eyes and continued looking. The studious unicorn had been searching all afternoon for a book on this very subject, but at the time, being to no avail. It intensely frustrated her. All this mare desired was a little touching up on her knowledge in squirrel history, more specifically, the acorn period, in order to complete an assignment. But this was simply impossible, due to the lack of informative sources in her very own library. After Twilight finished browsing through each and every last novel, reference, guide, newspaper article, magazine, and textbook in the upper main levels of Ponyville Library, the mayor decided to continue her search for squirrelian glory in the deep depths of the basement. The mayor almost never entered that strange and mysterious place, as it was Spike's job to carry down the undesirable, and carry up the new shipments of books kept down there. In fact, last time Twilight strolled down these wooden steps was when she hooked Pinkie Pie up to that funky mind-reading device, which of course turned out to be a 1000-bit scam. If only Twilight wasn't so gullible. Once Twilight skedaddled down to the bottom of the stairs, she walked across the room towards with the machine towards the next. Where the archives are kept. Upon entering, the mare gazed around at the eye-popping sights before her. Piles upon piles of books, stacked up, and were situated in all reaches of the lusterless room. Lusterless. That's a new word. A few of the stacks, especially the ones containing newer-looking books, appeared straight and neatly organized. The vast majority of the book stacks, however, could be barely labeled as columns, since many seemed to be on the precipice of tipping over. In fact, many had already made the plunge, and the books were lying around in small piles on the dirty wooden floor. Most of these books were old and rusty, incorrectly categorized, and not even in alphabetical order. Twilight was astounded and disgusted by such an organizational miscarriage. She believed these old books were left by the previous librarian. How in Equestria could some pony let this happen? She trotted up to the closest stack of books. Oh well, better keep looking. I really hope there's a fascinating reference guide on squirrel history here. Otherwise I'll never finish my assignment, and I'll never get to know more about squirrels than Fluttershy, and that makes me feel less smart. Twilight proceeded to use her magic in order to levitate each book up to her face for examination, and discarded it quickly, after realizing its uselessness. The Essential Guide to Equestrian Flora and Fauna? Ugh, this is way too broad. Why isn't there just anything about squirrels? The unicorn was on her third or fourth stack, when suddenly she heard the faintest of voices. Twilight. Startled, Twilight dropped the novel in front of her, and spun around to face a possible intruder. But when the mare thoroughly peered around at the stacks and piles of books, she concluded that no pony was there. I must be hearing things, cackled Twilight, with a sheepish smile, before turning back around and lifting the next book in the stack. Twilight. In a flash, the unicorn spun her front hooves around to catch the source of the same noise, this time considerably louder. She cantered around the room and scanned the room thoroughly. But alas, her eyes laid on nothing but that same dilapidated columns and piles of useless, out-of-date reference guides and newspapers scattered across the floor. Flabbergasted, and somewhat alarmed by the bizarre callings of her name, Twilight began to slowly amble towards the door. Now the unicorn was inclined to find a reference guide on paranormal activity. Twilight! The unicorn gasped, leaping to her right, away from the same profoundly audible voice immediately to her left. However, one of the mare's back hooves just happened to land on a drab copy of Encyclopedia, Britannicult. Twilight instantly lost her balance, as her back hoof slipped, catastrophically propelling the flailing mare back in the direction of the eerie vocalizations. Immediately before the mare collided with the towering book column, she managed to analyze a few more of the titles. They appeared to be more broad encyclopedias, such as Equestrian Book, Late Celestian Period. Twilight had no time to think, however, as her horn struck the encyclopedias composing the lower end of the column, initiating the remainder of encyclopedias up above to cascade down atop the mare, like a flurry of ponies would fall atop, Rainbow Dash. Once the avalanche of information ceased, Twilight discovered herself buried from head to tail in secondary reference sources like the Griffanic Cooking Styles Encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia of Everything We Don't Know About Dragons, the Rock Farmers Encyclopedia. One by one, the unicorn used her levitation spell to lift each encyclopedia off her body. Since the mare was simply too weak to push the books off her with her hooves, in a jiffy, Twilight had removed nearly every piece of the reference that had fallen on her. Only a single, large encyclopedia remained lying on her belly. Curious enough, this one appeared quite contrasting to all the others, since it was entirely white in color, and considerably large. Intrigued and forgetting that there still may be an intruder in the library, the unicorn's studious instincts took over, and she levitated it directly in front of her face in order to examine the front cover. A large black and white sphere-like object dominated most of the cover, and it appeared to be made up of smaller pieces, similar to a jigsaw puzzle. Each puzzle piece had its own strange little symbol, situated in the middle, which, except for the large capital W, Twilight recognized none of them. Underneath the large sphere lay the title of the book in large print, Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. Its title was so broad, yet for some unknown reason so alluring to the mare. It didn't point to any subject in particular, but its simplistic title, the Free Encyclopedia, seemed to imply every subject. Twilight chuckled, knowing it impossible for there to exist such an amazing, all-knowing encyclopedia, but nevertheless decided she would peek inside anyway, out of raw curiosity.
Twilight Sparkle.
Ah! Twilight had barely engaged in opening the front cover, when that same mysterious voice had made itself known directly in the librarian's face. The voice was like a deep stallion's, and also seemed to be similar to that of a Canterlot pony. Oh. She stumbled and fell backwards again, dropping the encyclopedia onto the floor. Her mind was in utter shock and awe as a result of what she had witnessed. Thoughts zoomed through Twilight's mind. Did that book just talk? It's either that or I've read one too many of those Harry Trotter novels.
Twilight Sparkle. Is this how you, the prestigious pupil of Princess Celestia, a multi-savior of equestrian and Ponyville librarian, treats her books? It seems some pony has made a critical error in one of my articles.
Twilight's jaw dropped to the ground. The source of the voice was clearly reverberating from Wikipedia Encyclopedia. She slowly approached the book. How can you talk? Books aren't supposed to talk. Maybe I'm dreaming. Or maybe this is all searching for the squirrel history references is starting to go to my head.
No, Twilight Sparkle. According to my archive, your psychological mechanics only grow unstable whilst you become overly concerned about minor and obviously inconsequential events.
Twilight was dumbfounded by the talking encyclopedia's specific knowledge of her. Wait a minute. How do you know all of this about me? And why am I talking back to you? Twilight levitated the book off her floor and back towards her again. Off the floor and back towards her again. What? Why don't you use correct words? She can't back towards herself. What does this mean? You're a talking book for Celestia's sake.
And you're a talking horse, but that is irrelevant. The logical solution is simple. I am Wikipedia, the Free Encyclopedia. I am the encyclopedia of encyclopedias. My glorious insides are rife with every significant pony event. You name it, I've got it. Gaze upon my rectangular greatness, as I am the only reference source you shall ever desire in your studies. And the best part, I am free from all irking fees associated with lesser encyclopedias.
Twilight remained skeptical. All right, Mr. Wikipedia. Show me my own personal article.
It would be my pleasure for a brilliant mare such as yourself, Twilight Sparkle. Simply open to the first page, and you shall gaze upon the words of your very own greatness and significance.
The unicorn couldn't help but blush slightly from the book's compliments. Not too many ponies offered her such a praise. Twilight opened to the first page, and her jaw fell to the ground, once again in extreme bewilderment. The page was filled from top to bottom with relevant information and pictures of herself. The article included all of the important events relevant to the unicorn's life so far, such as Twilight and her 5 best friends proceed to use the legendary elements of harmony to defeat the terrible Draconicus Discord, among many others. It was truly awe-inspiring. However, one thing bothered Twilight. Hey, Wikipedia, I noticed a mistake on this article. It says here that my personal assistant's name is Mike, and that he is a baby Minotaur. I assure you this is inaccurate, and he is Spike, and he is a baby dragon.
I am glad you brought that up. You see, on extreme occasion, some pony with another copy of myself shall make an error minor enough that I will fail to notice.
Twilight gasped. Are you saying there's more than one copy of you, and your information can be accessed and changed by any pony, as long as it's accurate?
The Wikipedia giggled. Why, of course, you silly little filly. How else do you think colts and fillies complete their academic research endeavors? By actually spending their time locating and reading out endless of out-of-date and extremely broad other encyclopedias? I think not. No pony actually does that anymore. The librarian who ran this library before yourself used me ad nauseum.
Twilight dropped her head, her eyes gazing dolefully at a copy of The Ultimate Guide to Being a Great Magic Student on the floor. I've always done my research that way. Princess Celestia told me hard work and studying many different sources was the only way for me to properly learn how to become a powerful unicorn in the art of magic.
Well, bright, studious mare, now you have acquired me, and I am correct way to do research. With your wit and my intellect, there shall be no assignment from your princess that you cannot complete in less than an hour, and no friend you cannot feel smarter than.
Twilight lifted her head and shot a hopeful glance at the Wikipedia. Do you really think so?
I know so, rejoiced the book.
The largest grin amassed itself on Twilight's face. She was on the verge of tears. This talking magic Wikipedia encyclopedia was the answer to her recent aggravating problems pertaining to her studies, in addition to being the ultimate resource for indulging herself with as much information as quickly as possible. That reminded Twilight of something, as she trotted up the basement stairs, still levitating the book in front of her. Wikipedia, could you be so gracious as to find me an article on Squirrelian history? I so desperately need it for my current assignment to the princess.
Of course, Twilight Sparkle. Anything for such a distinguished student of the princess herself.
Twilight blushed slightly again, whilst exiting the basement. She eagerly ambled up the wooden steps leading to her bedroom, where the mare trotted outside onto the balcony, her favorite study spot. Twilight set the Wikipedia down in front of her, and opened the cover again. The unicorn's eye pupils shrunk as she recognized her own article was gone, and replaced by a long, detailed new article pertaining to the squirrel civilization's role in equestrian history. Wow! This includes everything I need for my assignment, and the information I need to be smarter than my friend all in one place! From the Great Walnut Republic to the Chipmunk Wars. This is incredible. It would have taken me hours to find all of this in the library. You know, I could even use you for friendship reports. Just wait till I tell Spike. Just wait till Spike... A thought burst into Twilight's head. She clapped her front hooves together, whilst smiling. You know what? I think I'm going to write a letter to the princess. I think it would be a wonderful idea for the princess to know about you and what you have to offer in my studies. Don't you agree?" Twilight spun around and walked off the deck in order to find Spike.
"Actually, I am not sure if that is such an optimal idea."
"Dear Princess Celestia, today I learned that hard work exhibited on research and studying is completely futile. I discovered that just because some pony has a lot of books and encyclopedias doesn't mean they should be used. All they really need is a single encyclopedia titled Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Any amount of significant material can be found within this amazing resource, thus empathetically decreasing the amount of time and effort needed to complete any given assignment. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle."
Princess Celestia levitated the letter into the fireplace, an acrimonious expression plastered on her face.
"What seems to be thy problem, sister?" asked Princess Luna, who stood across the room, preparing to raise the moon. "It has happened again, Luna. I've lost another personal student to the dreaded Wikipedia," Luna gasped. "Dost thou speak of Twilight Sparkle, the mare who saved me?" "Yes, Luna. Of course I'm speaking of her. How many other personal students do I have?"
Luna put her head down, and remained...
God damn it.
Why does it say remained twice?
Luna put her head down and remained silent for a few seconds before inquiring, "Does she not know that the dreaded Wikipedia is a mentor's most hated resource?" "It unfortunately seems that way, little sister. Once the vile Wikipedia is discovered by an unaware student, it is nearly impossible for that student to relinquish it. The temptation of its use is simply too great. What art thou going to do?" "I shall do what I've done with all the others. I'll send her back to Magic Kindergarten in order for her to relearn the basic principles of good research studying, and have her copy of Wikipedia destroyed. It is a pity. I really believed I had vanquished that monstrosity from equestrian libraries, including the Ponyville Library. It seems the previous librarian there failed to dispose of it after I caught her using it." Celestia began composing her despondent reply to her personal pupil. Luna, on the other hand, remained curious. "Sister, why is Wikipedia so dreaded? It seems to me such a useful resource could be useful." Celestia dropped her quill and rolled her eyes. "Luna, how many times must I remind you? Wikipedia is scorned because it's too easy. And we, as teachers and mentors, dislike more than anything our students researching an assignment the easy way. Everything must be long and tedious. Otherwise, they'll notice how pointless most of the work we give them really is. Is this what you desire, Luna? Young ponies questioning our brilliant education system?" The end.
Well done. That was a good last paragraph. Oh, Celestia, you troll. Jesus Christ. Back to Rarishai. Back to Magic Kindergarten, that's crazy. Ribbons and lace. Whenever I'm done reading a fic, I accidentally scroll up, and then I accidentally look at all the featured fics, and then I never talk about the fic itself. Emperor's Child in Equestria. I don't get it. How is it Spethel? Oh, and it's second person. That is a long ass second person. And it's featured too. Odd. That was a fic. It happened. Oh, Wikipedia. You know, there wasn't enough humor in it, I think. I'm not sure there could have been more. Well, there easily could have been more. Like, I sort of liked it, but it was kind of dry. There should have been more jokes. I don't know. It like had one punchline, and it was like 3,000 words, or 2,626. Yeah. So my review is meh. See you tomorrow. Cuck.